I'm very glad to welcome you all again to a public lecture, this time organized by the Estonian Union of Architects. It is my pleasure to introduce tonight's speaker, Sou Fujimoto. Sou Fujimoto was I think I can say in the terms of architecture, born rather recently, 1971 in Hokkaido, and has been trained as an architect in the University of Tokyo. He established Sou Fujimoto Architects in 2000, and starting from the more recent history, in 2014, Sou Fujimoto won the international competition for the second folio on Montpellier. In 2013, he became the youngest architect to design the Serpentine Pavilion in London. In 2012, he participated at the exhibition of the Japanese pavilion at the Venice Biennale. That was awarded the Golden Lion for the best national participation. He has some of his most known works include obviously the Serpentine Pavilion, also the House NA, the Musashino Art University Museum and Library, the final Wooden House and House N. He has been awarded numerous prizes in numerous competitions. He has been lecturing internationally and publishing widely. Please join me welcoming Sou Fujimoto.
Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you very much for inviting me to this precious lecture. Yeah, actually this is the first time for me to be here in Estonia, in Tallinn, and so it's really exciting to see such a beautiful city area and some of the really gigantic concrete structures abandoned in the waterside. It was really amazing. And I'm now today doing the lecture for about 1 hour, so I hope you enjoy. The title is the Between Nature and Architecture. It's very simple title, but I don't want to talk not only about nature and architecture, but various different kinds of the contrast of the two opposite things. Some of them like a simplicity and complexity, or inside and outside, or furniture-like things and architecture-like things, or something like that. Because every time I am thinking about such kind of a, how to say, something in between things. And because maybe I have to explain about my background briefly, that will tell you how I try to combine such an opposite things together to create some new architectural things. I was born in Hokkaido Island, the northern island. It's really north and really cold, maybe cold as this here, Estonia. And sometimes it snows a lot. But fortunately my home, my house was surrounded by beautiful natures. Because the Hokkaido area is different from the Tokyo area, it's really, really nature-filled and surrounded by the forest. So my childhood days until the end of the high school days, I was growing up in such a forest area and playing around in such an areas. And then when I come into the university, I moved to Tokyo. Yeah, you can see this is almost the opposite side, one of the most ugliest city, I believe. But strangely, when I moved to Tokyo, I like that, or I felt really comfortable in such situations. It was very strange because I was growing up in such beautiful situations, and I didn't know anything about such crazy areas. But when I was in the middle of that, I felt a bit comfortable, or really comfortable. And I didn't know why at the beginning. And then I started to learn architecture and years and years. I spent many years in Tokyo. And then finally, after 5, 6, 7 years, I found out these kind of comfortable feelings is coming from how Tokyo are composed. And it's coming from how similar these nature feelings and the opposite Tokyo feelings, how similar both of them are. I mean, of course it looks so different, but Tokyo are made of these kind of really small, tiny or middle-sized things. So the streetscape is made by such a group of the small or middle-sized or various different scale of things. So you are surrounded by such a small things, and to be surrounded by comfortable or cozy feelings. And it's still open, so you will surrounded by many small things, but still you can walk around through this small street and you can choose your own way. And it is completely, for me, the same to this nature forest feelings. In the forest, you are surrounded by many small leaves, small trees, big trees. You are surrounded by such a things. So it could be a very cozy feelings. And still you can walk around and you can choose your own way. So the elements surrounding you are so different. Everything is completely artificial in Tokyo, and everything is completely natural. But the situations, you are surrounded by such a small things or middle-sized things or various different scales are almost the same. And then I felt Tokyo is almost like an artificial forest. Of course, it's so different, looks like so different, but the way the space are made are almost the same for me. Then at that point, from that point, I felt, of course, at that time I started to do architecture design and thinking about how to make my own architecture. But at that point, from that point, I felt designing architecture is not just designing artificial things, but how to create something between nature things and artificial things together. Because we could find such a strange, unexpected similarity between nature and architecture. Then, of course, after the 100 years of the modern architecture, we can think about something like that. Modern architecture is more oriented to the more focusing on the artificial structure itself. But then, after 100 years, we could find, for example, the nice combination of the nature things and architecture things together. That was the starting point of my architecture thinking. So from the very beginning, I was interested in how we can think about some space, architectural space, between nature and architecture. And it means not only nature and architecture, but as I said, inside and outside, for example. Inside is more architectural space, artificial space, and outside usually the natures. But if you think about something between nature and architecture, then between inside and outside is also really, how to say, changeable or mixable or something like that. Or simplicity and complexity as well. Usually the simplicity is more, how to say, applied to the artificial things, and the nature things is more complex. But nature has also the simplicity. Or we can say nature has simplicity, complexity in a very good balance. And then how we can find such a nice balance of the simplicity and complexity in architectural design. So if you compare nature and architecture, then such a, for me at that time, the frontier-like things, such a new field are open. So I try to explore such a field. And then, of course, this is the urbanscape of Tokyo. So you will see how ugly this is, but you will see how strangely small things are composing your living environment. And if these small things are half artificial and half natural things, it is getting more and more closer to the artificial forest. So that was the starting point. And then, after 20 years from my graduation from the school, I was always thinking about such kind of things. And from the beginning, at the beginning it was more like my skill was very bad, so try and error and some strange things I made. But in this 4 or 5 years, I am, how to say, not satisfied, but I feel some of them creating or exploring the new field of the architecture. And this Serpentine Pavilion is the very, very latest and very good example to show how I treat such a balance of the opposite contrast things. And yeah, as you know, this is the pavilion, limited period of pavilions, temporary pavilions, only for the summertime, and started last June until last October, so 4.5 months. And the site was just in front of the old building of the Serpentine Gallery, and it is just a green field surrounded by really beautiful trees in the green gardens. So, and of course, every year in this 13, 14 years, every different architects has been designing such things. And this is, usually this is a cafe, the main program is a cafe, but the more important purpose I felt is the statement from the architects. What is the architecture for the future? Or what is the, how to say, the space, or what is the living environment for the future life, our life? Then we proposed these kind of, how to say, cloud-like or ambiguous, airy structures, and all are made by the steel pipes, 2 centimeter thin steel pipes, something like this, with the grids of the small one is 40 centimeters and the big one is 80 centimeters. And 40 centimeters means the size you can sit on, and or you can walk up, and sometimes 80 centimeters is bigger grids to create the different densities. But anyway, yeah, it is so many grids. The grids is coming from the floors, like a walls or like a structures, and then overlapping above you like a roof, but no clear divisions from the walls and the roofs. It is every time it's continuous, and then sometimes it's getting like this. It's stepping areas. We put the glass surface on it, so you can sit on or stepping up, walk around, and you can come in behind these structures. So even in these photos, you couldn't see clearly where is inside, where is outside. These front areas literally outside, and you can go down and again coming behind it, it is inside, but still it's almost open outside, and then you can come out from here. And this was the photos I took when I first visited the site. It was the end of November, so all the leaves has gone, and this is the British big trees, and just next to the site. And I was so impressed. Of course, I have been impressed by such a beauty of the natures, but at that time I was again so deeply impressed by such a simplicity and complexity. It has some rules, I believe, but finally the shape is so complex and so beautiful. So how we can, and our pavilions should be surrounded by these guys. So how we can make some things just in front of these kind of a beauty of the natures, and to react or to be comparable to the natures. And then I try to think about such a contrast, simplicity and complexity, nature and architecture like that. And finally we found out these solutions of the grids. The grids is quite interesting because it is a very old form of architectures and a really simple, fundamental form of architectures. And it is really straight and rigid. So it's almost the opposite from the nature forms. But if you use grids in such many repetitions, so many grids is coming together, then you could create something beyond just the usual grids. It's something more closer to the nature orders. So you will see everything is made by such a straight lines, but you will see such a ambiguous difference of the densities and an ambiguous softness of the space are created. That is really amazing coexistence of the ambiguity and the straightness, or the artificial order and the natural softness. But the whole process was quite tough, because it's a really short period. Design period was really short. Started from the end of November, as I said. So we had only 1 month during the December. We have to fix the design. And then from the beginning of the January, we have to start the documentation for the permissions. And then in February, we have to make more detailed design and the mock-upping. And then from the March, we have to make the prefabrication, something like that. So everything is only 1 month and 1 month. But for me, of course, it is very, very big project. So we did a lot of the sketches and studies and some things. And this is one of the early sketches. One of the, maybe 2 major things was the inspirations. One is the program. This is a cafe, mainly. And sometimes it's like this lecture space. So hundreds of the people should come to have a lectures, or party, or the dinner tables layout should be possible, or something like that. So basically cafe, but should have the multi-purpose activities. And another point, another inspiration was the surroundings. It's like surrounded by beautiful forest. So how to create such a nice relationship between nature things and our artificial structures. And then, for the cafe or for the multi-purpose things, we were thinking about to creating more, how to say, landscape-like things. It is the landscaping by the staircases, or providing many, many seating areas, or something like that. Or this is a model in the process. We are thinking about these kind of landscape-like things made by, I don't know, we didn't think about the materials, maybe the concrete or steel plates, something. Such a continuous artificial hill-like things. I try to, this is my hand and my staff's hand, so try to find the nice or strange shapes. And then in the process, of course, 1 month, but we have to communicate with the Serpentine people almost every day or every week. And they asked me to send the sketches. Then I made some 2-3 options, 2-3 ideas, and send them the sketches. And just after sending the sketches, we have to make a phone call conferences. And then they said, the director is Julia Payton-Jones. She's a really nice woman. She said no. Why? This is too much Fujimoto-like. So Serpentine Gallery is not requiring such a thing. You have to do something else. Okay. Yeah, then next week we tried to make something different from Fujimoto-like things, and we made some crazy things, and then sent them sketches, and they said, make a phone call, and they said no. Why? They said, it is too much not Fujimoto-like. Okay. So Fujimoto-like is not possible. Not Fujimoto-like is not possible. So how to do with that? And we discussed about that. And finally, we tried to find out something between Fujimoto and not Fujimoto, or something like that. And then, of course, I understand the meanings. This pavilion should not be something like the previous artworks, but still should be something like the amazing or surprising update of the Fujimoto concept. So that is the meaning of the not Fujimoto-like or too much Fujimoto-like. But anyway, during such a crazy conversation, we continued the studies. And then this was just a previous version of the final one. It was, as I said, the hilly landscape. So the ideas of the landscape seems good, but how to realize it or how to update this? Yeah, provide the various varieties of the seating areas, or provide the various activities of the peoples. That sounds good. But it seems, if you make it like a concrete shells, it looks like a Frank Gehry or Oscar Niemeyer or something like that. And it must be very heavy compared to the surroundings. So how we can make it more light or transparent? And then I got an idea to make this surface by grids, translate this surface into the grids. So it is getting more transparent, and still it has the feelings of the landscape. And if you introduce the grid of the 40 centimeters, then the landscape is not such a smooth surface anymore, but it could provide the stepping areas for people to sit on. So it's possible to say it's like the transparent landscape. And then the ideas is ongoing. And finally, it is the 1 to 10 scale model, because the previous one is 1 to 200 model, so it's something like this, quite small. And then we make it bigger, 1 to 100, to make it more like adjusting the form or something. But we did in a computer, of course, as well, to make it more precise. On the computer screen, you could see so precisely, but you couldn't see the space itself, because there's just many lines on the screens, and you couldn't see the depths of the space, and you couldn't see where in front or where behind. So finally we decided to make the real 1 to 10 scale model to see what it is, what we have been designing. And the 1 to 10 scale means each bar is 2 millimeter. And like this, 4 centimeter, 2 millimeter bars, glued to each other to make one grid to another. It was really tough process. But yeah, we knew we have to do it, because otherwise we couldn't see anything what we have been doing before making the real one. That's very risky. So we made it. And then we saw it, and it's almost okay. So that's fortunately, it was almost okay. And then small or minor updating things is happening. I put one cube of the grids to one part, or I cut 2 grids from the existing one. And every time I put or I cut, my staff is following me to check this line, 29 and 35, and the height is something. My improvisations should be reacted to the computer model precisely, and then computer model is sent to the London engineering people to be calculated again. So such a handcrafts and mutual feedback of the handcrafts and the computers happening for weeks, because I see it, and when I satisfy it, it's okay, but I didn't satisfy with that, so I continue to like a trimming, the haircut like things, to make the whole space. And finally, it seems okay, because I tried to make it a bit mysterious. The first model of the 1 to 10 scale was so simple, so clean, and it's too clear to understand what it is. So I tried to make it more mysterious. Some strange part or some strange things is happening. So then you could feel, you couldn't understand what it is. So you continue to walk around. Then finally, through the whole your experience, you will understand. That kind of experience I tried to make. Anyway, finally we made it. And then through the computers, the contractor made the precise laser cut drawings, and they made it. It's really amazing, because the contractor is how to say, they are not the architecture contractor. It's more like a sculpture or installation professionals. So they're so precise, and they're so on schedule, on time, and thousands of the connecting point, laser cut and welding, and laser cut and weldings, and finally it's done. And as you can see, the whole shapes is different, always different from different viewpoint. You couldn't see what it is. It's just a strange shape is continuously changing, and the whole impression of inside is also changing. And you could walk up, and you could sit on, or you could sit different areas, and you could move in. This is one of the entrance to come inside. But from outside, you couldn't see where's the entrance, where's the inside. You would see some people's inside or behind the pavilions. It's every time it's really blurry. And this is the interior view. And you will see we have stepping areas so that the people can use these areas as a kind of auditoriums. But usually it is a cafe. But even such a cafe areas, some people like to go up to have more isolations, or some people, couples like to have such an intimate space or open space or something like that. So you could choose your positions, you could choose your behaviors in this. So this field is really open field, but it has many inspirations and inspire you to behave as you like. So in that sense, it is creating kind of a nice interactive field for the people, I think. And sometimes, this is all stepping up areas, and almost every people try to walk up. Even such an old lady is trying to walk up, and the children is running around and screaming around. And we had barriers. It's like a regulations. They had London city has a really strict regulations about the barriers or handrails or something. So you couldn't see where's the barriers, because we try to delicately design, we try to make it not visible, but we made the clear barriers for that. So it's the safety and security people are finally satisfied with that. And we had the roof. It's a bit strange. You will see some round-shaped, transparent materials. It's like a polycarbonate discs, like something like this. And it's tiling on each other. So from here, the raindrop is coming through this like this, and finally go out to the outside. This is the roof, transparent roof. And the combination of this circle shape and the grids was I believe it's a beautiful combination, because it's not spoil the gridness and the independency of this circle shape. It's like a floating cloud. But unfortunately, this roof didn't work a lot. The rain waters is coming more, not going like this, but coming like this from every edge of the circle. But the people, I was so happy to hear that the people were every time so positive. The raindrop from the roof was so beautiful when it was raining this way. Maybe that's what you were designed to make such kind of a beautiful raindrop, something like that. And I said yes, that was a nice design. But anyway, it was such a strange combination. You will see again. And the roof, polycarbonate, will reflect sometimes the green surroundings. So it's a nice, nice subtle combination. Sometimes this kind of a pureness of the grids is, too strong. So it is getting more difficult to put some other materials or some other elements. But in our case, it was, we found out to put the different elements in a nice way. And you will see some strange strip on this surface. It is a polycarbonate plate to block the wind. Of course, again, it didn't work a lot, but still, it has the nice blurring feelings from inside and outside. But anyway, and again, this is the view of the opening lecture. And you will see how differently the space are used. And now you will see where is the barriers around. So this is the highest point we can walk up, and the barriers is around. But you will find this is not the proper areas to sit on, but the people can behave as they like. And here is Charles Jenks is there. And the dog. For dogs and for children, this is the paradise. because the size of the grids is like the dogs can walk through and the children can walk through and climbing up. So I'm very happy to see how dogs and children look so happy to walk around. And in this photo, I like to show how this shadow was so amazing, because, yeah, of course, the floor is very flat, made by concrete. So I was afraid the light structures is touching on the floors, and then suddenly the floor is so strong. That kind of division is too much. But then one strategy I took was to put the beautiful furniture. This is a really usual terrace furniture, but to putting the furniture is creating the kind of a densities or different dimensions on the bottom part of the pavilions. So that works very well. But then, unexpectedly, the shadows is going down to the projected on the floors. Then it is creating the different kinds of dimensions on the floor. So, especially when it is sunny days, you are almost like a floating in the middle of this really thin frameworks to have the shadows on the floors. So every time such kind of densities or the scales is very, very important. The upper part is really made by really thin scales, and the lower part, we should do something to make a balance of the scales. And these furnitures or the shadows are the part of that. And again, this is the night view. And this is a silhouette of the old serpentine buildings. So our design, something like this, are slightly reflecting the shape of the serpentine buildings, to covering everything by the really soft cloud-like things. And in this case, yeah, as I said, of course, this is artificial structures, and the grids is super artificial orders. But as you can see, this is, of course, the behavior of the peoples and the reaction with the people is more like on the landscape, natural landscapes, or the whole atmosphere is made by straightness, but creating the softness. So the sharpness and the softness are coexisting together. Or, of course, the artificial orders and the natural complexity or the softness is coming together. And of course, simplicity and complexity is coming together, inside and outside as well. And furniture scales, really small scales, the architectural scales is coming together. So usually we can divide architectural scales, furniture scales, but in here, the both scales or several different scales are integrated together to create the one unity of the pavilions. So in that sense, in these pavilions, I think such several different opposite qualities are integrated nicely together to create something new. Because if you say between furniture and architecture, we couldn't answer what it is between furniture and architecture. We know architecture, we know furnitures, but what it is between furniture and architecture? Then it means we don't know what it is, then it means it's something new. Or if you say something between inside and outside we know, and outside we know, but what it is between inside and outside, then that could be something new. Or between simplicity and complexity. Both words is very simple, and we usual words, simplicity, complexity, nature, and architecture, really, really usual words. But if you say something between A and B, then that could be something new. And I try to find out what it is between usual both opposite things. Then that could be the field of the innovations, I think. So in this case, finally, it's a really beautiful integration of several different kinds of opposite qualities together. So that is why I really like this project, and that is why this project is a really beautiful masterpiece. So between architecture and landscape, or furniture, architecture, inside and outside, nature and architecture, or every different kinds of simplicity, complexity, or straightness and softness, something like that. That kind of every different kinds of fundamental usual qualities, then we could find something new between that. And then I will show several different variations. Every project has somehow such kind of meanings. This is a private house in Tokyo, and it's quite small house. Yeah, you can see the size of the car. This car is a rather small car, but compared to the car, it's just the size of the house is quite small. So we decided to make this house, how to say, special house for the small area. In this small area, if you try to get the big space, but that big space is still small. So we gave up the big space, but we try to have more and more space, even small, but many different areas in such a small area. So we divided the plot in smaller pieces and to have small, various, many floors, and then compose them in a different levels to create the spaces. This is something like this. It's a Tokyo. So Tokyo has no big things. It's many small things. So recompose the small things to create such a comfortable diversities in a smaller areas. So there's almost the same way to make the spaces. But of course, this Tokyo is quite ugly, and ours is quite beautiful. That's the reason why the architects could work. But anyway, yeah, this is the model. Again, to make many models. And finally, we made it. And it's quite thin because in these small scales, the usual, for example, 15 centimeter columns is already too big and too depressive, or the 20 centimeter slabs is too big. So we try to make it much thinner, the 6 centimeter columns and the 6 centimeter slabs. So it's something like this. It's like a furniture. And the size of this floor is almost like a big tables, the 1.4 meter and 2.5 meter, something like that. The smaller one is much smaller, 1.4 by 1.4. It's like a dining table. But if you make it, recompose it in such a certain way, then we can make the new definition of the house. It's a big combination of the furnitures and the house on the everything. And the window frame is one of the elements, and the staircase is one of the small elements to recompose the whole housing areas. So in here, yeah, this is the house. This is the house for the couple. This is the client, and they like to have such a varieties in their house. Not one big space, but to have different areas to choose how to spend these areas or how to be here. This is about 80 centimeter high, so it's not a room. But if you just sit on, it's possible. So it's more like a cozy small space. Or these areas, if you have 10 friends, they could sit on here, there, like a stadium like things. So you can have a chat. Or you could divide it in 2 groups, 2-3 groups. So depending on your way to use the space could be recomposed. So in that sense, it's very similar to the Serpentine video. Or this is another residential project. This is in Spain, and the surroundings is so different. It's more in the natures. So we just, at the beginning, we just react to the climate situation. This is in Spain, so there's really strong sunlight in the summertime. This is a summer house, so mainly we are thinking about the summertime, the really strong sunlight. So try to create the nice shade for the sunlight. So then, of course, every kind of shading is possible, but we try to integrate the shading things and the structure things together, and space maybe. So these timber structures could work as a shade, and at the same time, it's the main structures to hang the whole glass roof and the glass walls, and to create this kind of a comfortable, cozy areas, nested areas. And I am intending to use such kind of irregular shape of the timber elements because, as you can see, this structures forms as a grid, again, like a serpentine grid. But if you use this kind of irregular shape, natural shape of the timbers, the meanings of the grid is different. The grid is straight, but the element is the waving, irregular shapes. So beautiful or amazing combination of the irregularity and the straightness together, or nature and artificial order together. So I was expecting such kind of a strange or amazing combinations, new combinations of the materials is happening. And here, yeah, you could see the staircases. So on upper part, you could have the hidden terrace, hidden space for the terrace, like a tree house in the tree structures. And you will see the space under the shading structures is something like this, and half outside and half inside. But inside are only covered, divided by the glass hanged from these structures. So the impression is more like just the shading timber structures is surrounding you. It's really, in a positive meaning, it's really primitive, primary architectural things. And this could be, the design is almost finished, and they will start construction, I believe, this year. And this is the summer house for sale, I think. So if you are really interested in having a summer house in Spain, could be the nice option, I think. Or the same ideas. Yeah, I have been doing serpentine or this timber grid house. The ideas of the grid is, in a sense, very neutral or universal from the ancient years. And I try to re-innovate such usual things in a very different way. And in this case, the scale is getting much, much bigger. This is a Middle East project. And the scale is about 1.5 kilometers from here to the end of the site. This was a competition invited by the king of the country. And they decided to make the huge area. It's like a Champs-Élysées in Paris. The length of the street is like that. So designing the whole Champs-Élysées was so excited. So I said, yes, okay, I will join to the competition. And then the whole area is like this 1.5 kilometers. And then how to do with that was a big challenge, because Champs-Élysées was designed by so different architects, so it has a diversity and it has a nice rhythm of the scales. But in here, how one architect could design such a changing of the diversities and changing of the scales. And then we decided to make such kind of the rhythm of the things by the grid. You don't see clearly the grid, but if you close up like this, everything is made by the grid. Only one difference is it has an arch on it. But here you will see 1 grid, 2 grids, 3 grids, and sometimes double grids or triple grids, so bigger grids are combined together, just like a serpentine things. But everything is made by such a different size of the grids. And then, by the grids, we could make the 7 or 8 towers to make the rhythm of the scales, and each tower has a big openings, like this. It works as a ventilation towers, because this is the Middle East, so it's a natural ventilation, and hot air, strong sunlight is the problem. So this is a huge natural ventilation tower, and each grids is like a filters from the sunlight. And you will see how the layers of the grids is protecting the direct sunlight, and only the particles of the sunlight is coming down through it. So this grid and arch ideas is of course coming from the climate situations, how to protect the sunlight and how to create such a big spaces for the natural vegetations. And the big space could work as the big rhythm of the 1.5 kilometer street. Otherwise it's almost endless repetition of the small grids. That could be terrible. So then we found out the different way to use grids in such a big scales. So 1.5 kilometers from the Serpentine Pavilion is about 25 meters by 25 meters. So I don't know how much bigger than the Serpentine Pavilion, but the same principle, same ideas, but so different way to use it is happening. So you will see these outer grids is almost shades, so no glass on the surface. The glass is set back 2 or 3 layers set back, but it has different towers, shape of the towers. Every tower has a big openings inside. And some of them like this is a big plaza, and the shops, this is a shopping area, so shops on the bottom or the upper levels, or some community public programs on the upper levels. But basically the sunlight is coming through. And sometimes such a crazy water field on the bottom of this big openings. So yeah, you could just take a boat for fun. But anyway, it's such a crazy programs in it. And again, like this, so it must be very beautiful. But finally, yeah, it was a competition. But after the submission of the competition, we talked about the date of the presentations. But finally, they said we just canceled the competitions, so everything was gone and nothing. It's okay. That could happen sometimes, but at least I hope they choose the first prize and second prize, but they didn't. They just say cancel. But for me, it's a pity, but still, it was a very exciting project because it gave me the chance to think about the grids ideas, serpentine ideas, to expand beyond my imaginations, and to shuffle my hand and think about something really crazy. And then now I understand it's possible to design 1.5 kilometers and expand the ideas of the grids in such a scales. Then we could have more potentials than before. So in that sense, yeah, that was a really nice occasion for me. And I was expecting, after publishing this, some kind of a nice commissions from the Middle East areas could come to make, yeah, I'd like to make this or something like that, but nothing is coming. So maybe I like to continue to propose these kind of things. And then, like to going back to the really small project, one of the smallest projects I did, and one of the strangest programs. This is a public toilet project. And not only just a public toilet, but only one public toilet. It was a very strange commission, but when I got the phone call from the art director I knew, he was planning such a strange toilet. And he asked me, are you interested in designing such a public toilet? Then I said yes, because public toilet has been a really interesting program for me, because it is relating the really fundamental aspects of architecture. It's public, but there's toilets, so if you are using it, it's really private. So it's something between public and private. And I've heard the site is not in the middle of the city, but it's rather more in the nature field. So how we introduce natures, because usually the toilet is really enclosed. It's like a black box. But if you can introduce outside to inside, then that could be something really exciting. So it relates to such a fundamental public-private nature, openness and closeness. It's the problem of architecture. So I said yes. And then we thought about what is the ideal toilet. And that was I hope you see the really beautiful flower beds and the toilet on it. That must be the ideal, beautiful public toilet, we thought. But in reality, the site is not so big, and something, of course, the site is in Japan, so Japan is not quite big. So we don't have such a 1,000 square meter site. So finally, we made it something like this. It's almost the same. You will see the toilet, the glass box, and the wall. This is the important part. Because otherwise, everybody can see you. The main point is really simple, like this. The toilets are in the glass box, but the wall is just blocking the view. And we introduced natures between that. That was a really simple trick. And then it has something between public and private, or openness and closeness. The doors are around here, so you can come in through the doors, and you can lock the door here. And then once you lock the door, the whole areas are your own private areas. It's big. It's really big and open. And then you can walk in and do toilet or something like that. But the whole process, the whole natures or whole these gardens are your own private gardens. So in that sense, the privacy and publics are shifted between these two walls. Usually, the definite boundaries are here, but we made another wall, two walls, and then such a bit in between this is happening. And of course, yeah, this is a railway, and it has a small railway stations. But we carefully designed the height of the wall, of course, so people couldn't see you even from the railway train. If you are standing, you will see it, but if you are sit down, they don't see it. So this is the plan. This is a wall and the glass box and the door. So if you open the door, you will see the long way to go to the toilet. Of course, if you are in a really emergency situation, it must be very tough toilet, because finally you open the door and then still you have a distance to go to the toilet. But anyway, so it's a bit and again, yeah, this is like that. And this wall is really primitive, like just a pile stick on the ground. Just many piles stick onto the ground and they're connected on above. So it's really primitive constructions, and the glass box here. And we kept the existing trees and existing grasses. And from outside, it's something like this. It's like just a wall. And if you open the door, you will see. And you will see the neighbor's house, but you don't have to worry about that. If you are standing, you will see it, but if you are sitting on, they don't see it. And something like this. So we keep the landscape as like a natural landscape, not too beautiful, not too messy. So it is like a natural landscape. And again, something like that. So it is a really small public project, but it is, even such a small project, we can think about such an essential, fundamental architectural topics. What is private? What is public? What is inside? What is outside? What is the boundaries? Or what is natures? Such kind of things is always connecting to every different architecture project. And this private house is directly relating to such a inside and outside feelings. Because this is one of my favorite houses, because it's really fundamental and it's really neutral, but it's so extraordinarily different from the usual house. This is a really simple house. The 3 box, big box, middle box, and small box. So just a box and box and box. And each box has openings, many openings. But the big box, these openings from the big box has no glass. So the rain comes in, the wind comes through it. So then we could ask, inside of this big box is inside or outside. Actually, it is outside, but still inside of the big box. So you will feel the inside intimate feelings, even you are outside. And then this middle box has a glass roof and glass windows. So inside of this big middle box is, of course, actually inside. But we could ask, is it inside, definitely inside, or outside of this small box? Actually, these areas, or on the deep end, it's much bigger space, but it's outside of this small box, inside of the middle box. So every time, it's in between inside and outside. Every time you couldn't say where is definitely inside, where is definitely outside. So that is the intention. Try to shift every time inside, definition of the inside and outside, to create such an in-between spaces. Because usually this is the private house, inside and outside are clearly divided. It's okay, it's no problem. But I try to create such kind of a blurring house from inside and outside. And this drawing is showing the same things. This is a wall dividing inside and outside, clearly. But if you can think about the gradations from deep inside to the outside, then deep inside, slightly inside, rather inside, and in the middle, and getting more outside, almost outside, but slightly still inside of something. Such kind of gradations is making a very rich living environment, because you could choose where to stay, where to spend your time. If you like more privacy, then you can be more and more deep inside. And the weather is getting more better, then you can choose around here, or you can choose this area. So it's just provide more varieties for your choice of life. That is the intention, to create something between inside and outside. And then